Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another one of our discipline dialogue sessions. Today, we have April Bledsoe who is with us. April, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself before we kind of jump into our dialogue today.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, I'm April Bledsoe. I am the statewide chair for the Design Technology Program, and also for you folks on here, the help to develop the PD shell for EECT, EDSN, and design. So I don't have the list of all the courses that all of you are teaching, but I'm sure we'll find out throughout this call based on your questions and such. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, April. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Dr. Mark Schneider, AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support with Ivy Tech. So I help at a statewide level coordinate all of our programming and our 60-some programs and 400 courses and all of that. I coordinate at a statewide scale. It's nice of all of you to join us today. Before we get into some of our different talking points, we have mentioned in our other calls that we've had earlier this month that it is the college unofficially is designated November, NACEP November. So if you remember, for those of you who have been with us for 5 or 6 years or maybe even longer, what the dual credit world looked like pre-NACEP accreditation. NACEP is our accrediting body. That we first went through the process 5 years ago. We are now up for reaffirmation, is what they call it. It's basically reaccreditation of our NACEP process. All that to say, we're in a self-study year this year. Next year will be our data submission, followed up by a peer review team. We will need great examples from this program and others when it comes to syllabi, when it comes to course assignments. We'll need teachers to sit in on a peer review interview for an hour or so. If you would like to lean in and participate in that and help, lead us through our reaffirmation of our NACEP accreditation, I'll put my name and email in the chat. Just feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to have you to participate in that. Now, with that being said, so as a former high school teacher, I was always kind of surprised to find out that when it comes to curriculum and curriculum-related decisions, on the college side, that's driven almost exclusively by faculty, which is quite the departure from the K-12 side. And so every fall, every curriculum group has a curriculum committee meeting. Every program has a meeting. And some groups will end up meeting 2 or 3 times a year, maybe once a semester, just kind of depending on what the needs are. April, our first kind of question for you is, has the design curriculum committee and some of the other ones met? And is there anything of note that popped up in those meetings that might impact the dual credit world? And if you say you've met and there's nothing to worry about, that is also a welcome sign as well to show a little bit of stability. But do you have any updates from that curriculum committee meeting?
We actually had our statewide meeting at the beginning of November, and there were no major decisions coming across the board for design. I will tell you this though, that we are starting to develop, which is a requirement for our HLC accreditation for some common outcome assessments. So we are working on a common shell for Design 101 and Design 113. But that will be a while before we roll that out. It's something we have a goal to start introducing next year so that we can input for it. So it's in development. That will help us on gauging those common outcomes. But other than that, no major votes in the committee meeting at this time that would affect this team.
So if a core shell was completed, it'd probably be available at the earliest 26, 27 would be what I hear.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to share it with those who want it, but at the same time, we want to vet it out through our committee and make sure that, and just so you guys know, and some of you may have course shells that have been shared with you, but the course shells will really be developed to hit those basic outcomes what the course outline talks about that are required. And those are in your syllabus that would have been shared with you, the course outline, or we call them COR for short, of what each course is required to deliver. You can add to that, use some of your own projects, things like that, right? To make that happen for your students. But sometimes some teachers are having a hard time hitting on some of those points, especially in our world for all the design teachers here. If you're using PLTW, it's there, but they don't necessarily know what assignments to keep to help us see those outcomes. So we're trying to find a marriage for that so that you have a way to store that information and have a launching point. And then it'll give us the one common assessment that we need for each course for HLC purposes.
Yeah, and just to touch on the common assessment part from a statewide perspective, this is something that's rolling out more into the CTE space now than it has been originally. The last few years, we've had a common assessment, which sometimes is just a single assignment, depends on the course and the program. Sometimes it's assignment, sometimes it's a final, sometimes it's a non-graded assignment of sorts. But basically, what HLC and everyone wants us to do is to be able to track our student outcomes and make sure students are learning what the course objectives are. What are the pass rates of these tests? We get a lot of interesting data from that as well. Maybe the dual credit pass rate's higher, or maybe it's equal to. There's a lot. Does modality make a difference? There's just a lot of rich data to get from that helps us ensure that we're getting some really good student outcomes there. Kind of touching upon that, April, and you mentioned maybe one or two things that could tie into this question too. We do have a lot of newish dual credit instructors here over the last year or two. I'm sure you've onboarded your fair share of dual credit instructors. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to hit upon or that you try to touch upon in these conversations to maybe show that this is really important from the college's perspective, whether it's curriculum or something else like that? Because with a dual credit class, for all intents and purposes, it's a college course. You have a college, you have college grades, you have college assignments, you have college instructors. Every person on here is credentialed to be a college instructor. It's a college class for all intents and purposes. Is there something that instructors should be aware of to really make sure that that college perspective is hit upon?
Well, a couple of things. One is that crucial onboarding conversation that we have. It's recorded in dualenroll.com, and it helps us get to know our instructor by having an actual conversation, walking them through some of those deliverables, a syllabus, the grading policy, based on the program and what's required for the class that they're teaching, the specific deliverables for that class. So that's a really important conversation that your partner, wherever campus you're at, you're associated with, may try to schedule with you as soon as they learn of your existence. I have a brand new teacher who's taking over in the middle of the semester. He's retiring from industry and moving in to fill a role where a teacher left. And so it worked out really well. We even had his conversation the week before he started classes because it's happening so fast. But so that's crucial because there is where we have a chance to answer a lot of questions for you, but also walk through those deliverables on the Ivy Tech side. The second part is for you to know that is your partner. We are your partners on the campus level. And we know that you feel often out there, like you're an island out there and you feel a little bit disconnected, but we're here for you to reach out to us and throw those questions out. You're not meant to be out there alone. We're your guides because of what Mark said before about some of our different accreditations, our NACEP reaffirmation, and for the curriculum committee purpose. We want alignment so that the students are having every opportunity to receive that same experience, especially the information to continue on in their credential pathway. And so we want to make sure you're getting that information you need to execute and send those students on through.
So this is usually something we mention at the end, but I think it's a good segue here, talking about site visits. And, you're talking about establishing that professional relationship, a resource to lean into. But one thing that's popped up over these different discipline dialogue sessions here over the last month and the other programs has really been how much of a not only a collaboration is it, but it's kind of a two-way exchange of mutual benefit. So not only is the college helping provide sometimes, different, maybe a course shell or different lessons, other things like that to help out with. But we also have a lot of our college faculty learning, maybe new assignments, new strategies, especially from the like pedagogical perspective, lots of different teaching strategies that can be implemented into the higher ed classroom. We do get a lot of questions of like what our program chairs and faculty members are looking for in a site visit. I think sometimes our dual credit instructors kind of have that perspective of, their annual evaluation from their principal or assistant principal coming in with a clipboard and checking off things, and here's things you need to improve upon and other things like that, being a very formal, rigid assessment. But the site visit, at least in my experience, has been more of a professional collaboration for in most situations. Can you touch upon what you look for in a site visit for our newer instructors?
Yes, so I'm actually just had a couple of site visits last week and going on one right after the break here. And again, it's reaffirming that partnership that we talked about. My approach certainly is that part of it is we're support for you. So we're coming in to just connect with you and answer any questions that you as instructors might have, because often, like, I took over a couple of new high schools this last year or so, and they hadn't really met with anyone, and they felt very much out there on their own because there was a change in the campus they worked with and things like that. And so they were happy that I was there. I can say, as far as what we're looking for, and I was going to show an example of a checklist. This is an older one sitting out there for a teacher who wasn't my teacher at this time, but I thought I would show them. May I share my screen?
Yeah, I just made you a co-host, so you should be able to share
Okay,
your
so let
screen.
me just share real quick with you guys. I usually send a snapshot of this screen, but the teachers can see it too, I think, once we're working out there. But it says what course we're coming to, and we'll have a date because we will schedule it with you. And so I don't like to blindside anyone and just show up. I feel like that's very unprofessional. It puts everyone on edge. And the point is really to just come in and support what you're doing. And I get very excited to see what the students are doing. So I don't really want you to do anything different. And we've talked about this in our committee meetings. We really want you to just go business as usual, because we have to go through and see, for example, we have to make a comment about what did we observe? Are you making, are they using the syllabus? And these things right here, up here about the topics that were covered during, this is an onboarding one, sorry, not a site visit. It looks very much like this one. I thought this one was a site visit one, forgive me. The site visit one will ask a lot of the same questions that you get in onboarding, which is pretty much, are they, are they covering the things that you talked about in the onboarding and the syllabus? And then what did we observe on material or equipment that you're using? What was the lesson for the day? And as a teacher, creating meaningful experiences for the students. And I've never been disappointed. I just am so inspired when I come in, and it sometimes makes us up our game too. Honestly, when we see some of the very extensive projects that the high school partners are doing. And being in STEM, that can be really elaborate and they're very interesting. So I was going to go back here. I thought when I read checklist, I just read checklist. So it's supposed to correlate, right? Onboarding, we talked through the syllabus and some of the deliverables for the course. And then when we come for a site visit, we're really just wanting to see that reflected in what's happening. Do the students have their syllabus? Is there a process that they're following based on your calendar of schedule? And then we will document, what they're working on. But I really like to just hang back. I love it when the teacher will give me an opportunity to maybe even share about the program and what the certificate pathway, how that fits in, how what they're doing right then fits into the bigger picture. And then I just walk around and I'll look at what the projects are that they are doing. I may ask them questions about what their long-term goals are. It's just really not trying to put you on edge so that you can just do what you normally do. You don't have to stop everything if we say we want to schedule and try to mess up it can conflict with your schedule if you think you have to change anything. We don't want you to change anything. I do normally ask though, if we go back to, I'll share one other screen I have here. Back to the screen. So in the syllabus, you would receive, inside the syllabus, there is the course outline is pasted inside the syllabus. Okay, so like this is Design 101. These are the amazing, and by the way, major learning objectives. When we say that you cannot change this information, this is the approved, published statewide, all the way up to a very high level, what this course is offering. So again, in your exercises and activities and such, you can do what you think you need to do to cover that and even add to that. But we just can't change the course outline, the official published course outline. But when we are coming in, we're often just looking to see what exercises support these outcomes. This is what they should come out of the course with. And I may say here that, for example, Design 101 and most of the design courses are 64 contact hours. And most of you have them for maybe twice that. Or some are teaching the class for an entire year. So I know that you're either doing PLTW or something else where you're doing a lot of projects and other things. So you're adding to that. That's okay. That's okay. But we just have to see this being delivered. And I will usually ask in advance, I'll just say, hey, if you want to hold on to some homework assignments, they're journals that you have that they're doing their sketching in, things like that. And some of the assessments that you've done and rubrics that support this information that's being required to be delivered, then I can attach these to the site visit form to show a sample of, how it correlates with the course outline requirements.
Yeah, all good stuff there, April. I promised to put my name and email in the chat and failed to do so. So now I have put that in there. And April, if you have a chance, if you could put your name and email in there in case we have anyone who has specific questions related to your programs, they can follow up with you. I'm happy to answer any of the more administrative stuff at a statewide scale if anyone has any of those questions. Before we jump into our last topic or two with April, I do want to offer a couple of friendly reminders. One, April touched upon the professional development modules. Those are due on an annual basis. That's a NACEP requirement, due April 1st. So you still have 5 months and change to get it done. But maybe you have some time this week over the holiday weekend or over, Christmas break. You might have a couple of weeks off. Those are great times to get that done. Of course, spring break later on. The reminders will be sent out. But please do get that completed before April 1st. And then also there are a few benefits to being a dual credit instructor. One of them is that we offer 2 free courses per instructor per semester. So that's either for you, your spouse, or your dependents, so basically your children. But if you have, a couple or a kid or two at Ivy Tech and you're already paying tuition, we can cover up to 6 credit hours per semester. Courses run roughly $500 a class, so roughly $1,000. It's actually over $1,000 in savings each semester. So do keep that in mind. And then also, if you go to the Ivy Tech website, if you have an active Ivy Tech email, which all of you would as our dual credit instructors, if you go to my.ivytech.edu, you can download all the Microsoft Office products for free, that whole suite of products. So I think an individual subscription usually costs around $100 a year for all of that. So you can use that to, save you a little bit of money too. And your students can download that as well, as long as they maintain an active Ivy Tech email. So do keep that in mind. April, before we open it up to questions for the entire group, I do want to touch upon, for some of these programs, like with next level programs of study and the way the course sequencing is designed. The idea is for students to earn a certificate, perhaps a technical certificate in high school. But say some of our instructors here, they're having students earn 12, 18, maybe 30 credit hours in towards these programs, what would, what transfer options are there, whether the students, maybe they come to our campus after they graduate high school for a year or two, or if they want to go to a 4-year, what are some different, potential pathways for these students?
Yes, that's really one of the great, things about Ivy Tech, the relationships we have with some of our 4-year institutions. Based on the program, it will depend on what college or what program they can transfer into. So right now, for design technology, as an example, we have students that have gone on to ISU for engineering, Indiana Wesleyan. You can go to Purdue for design, for interior design, and we are working on an active agreement with Purdue to go, in more in the engineering direction. We also have students who take a combo of building construction management and design to go into their building management degree at Purdue. We are also working actively on one with IU. And Ball State, both IU and Ball State. Ball State, I have students going there for architecture. And here's what that looks like for us. We have some with agreements and some that we're working on. And I say that because I have students that have transferred after completing, gone to Ball State to start the architecture program. We don't have a formal agreement with them yet, but what the wonderful thing is now that they've been accepted there, we have a footprint that we can start the conversation. And so we've had some back and forth with Ball State that we're working on this. Purdue also, in their Indy campus, started an architecture program, and we're getting in on that one from the ground up. And with IU, I've had a student who's now on the way for his master's, but he graduated from the Bloomington campus and has been in industry and has gone on to IU to get his bachelor's. And so same conversation there. We're using his transcript and his journey as a footprint to say, okay, you took him as a junior. You let him walk in as a junior after Ivy Tech, and we would like to make this a formal agreement. And so those are things that we are working on. But now that we have someone that's already made that path, it's easier to have the conversation and even to help your students. So that's from a transfer standpoint. The types of credentials that students can pursue, and I don't know how much of this you've explained to them in the past, Mark, about the stackable credentials. I've had the chance to have this conversation directly with some of my partners, but obviously their CTE pathway in the high school, based on what you're approved for, they can get up to 6 classes, which is the computer-aided design certificate at the high school level. But then see, that actually applies towards, if they want to keep going at Ivy Tech, all the way towards the associate's degree. Those are core fundamental classes with a lot of tools. And then, it applies towards the technical certificate, which is 31 credit hours, 1 year, and continuing on to associates, which is 60 credit hours, that 2-year degree. So we have these credentials they can be earning along the way towards their associates, which is really an answer to a call from employers in the state looking for trained and credentialed people to work. And so they're, that marriage of giving students an opportunity out of high school through the CTE program. But yet they'll get that credential, that certificate. It shows a certain level of skill. Obviously, they can start working while they continue on for an associate, a technical certificate, or an associate's. I have students within the design tech program. I actually did open this up here and have this ready. So in the design tech program, for example, we have what I like to tell students. I just did a thing with about 500 middle schoolers this year, is really, our skills, what we do in design and drafting fundamentals, is almost everything around us has been touched by someone with those skills. So it just depends on what their interests are. But the other thing, we have these certificates are all computer-aided design, computer graphics. Computer-aided design is what you're doing in the high school. Mechanical design and surveying, which we added last year. University of Cincinnati asked us for, they wanted students in the pipeline for their degree there. And so we're working on that agreement as well in the surveying world. But I have students who are working to earn, more than one certificate actually. We don't offer, say, the ARC design. I'll use that as an example. I'm housed at the Bloomington campus. I don't have the ARC certificate at the Bloomington campus, but the students can take 5 out of 6 classes at the Bloomington campus. And then because we are one college, then we're really one program across the state. So I will coordinate with, say, my peer in Valparaiso to allow a student to take that 6th class with him. I pick him because he has the program, he has a certificate, and he's an architect. So I'm an engineer, so I feel like I'm setting them up with the best resource. And then they actually obtain their arch certificate, through the Valpo campus, and they never had to drive up there. So that way, they're just building their tool belt. One of the goals, what we're so appreciative of all of you is when they're coming out of the high school, really these 6 classes in computer aided design are loaded with tools. So they should be getting their 3D tool, a 2D tool, which industry keeps calling me about this from all over the state saying we need more people that know AutoCAD. And so when they come out of this particular certificate, they can likely have 3D design, the 2D tool, possibly another 3D tool, and maybe even Revit, which is that rendering software, BIM. It's highly desired, very marketable. So we're just opening up more options for students to be employed. It's one of the most highest in demand tools right now, Revit, but that is more on the architectural side of things. It's not meant for not meant for mechanical design or our Design 220 class, for example. It's really, we have a class for that. Some of you are using that in the 105 class, the Design 105 class, the architecture class. So our whole goal, obviously, is to arm them with as many tools as possible. And if they want to continue on at the campus, once they leave, finish with you, then they have that opportunity. They've already started in building their tool belt. Now, this page right here, by the way, is just at the ivytech.edu site, and then you can go to the design technology program, or if you're one of the other programs on here, because I don't have the demographic of who we have represented today, but whether it's EECT or environmental design program, or any other program for that matter. I have students who are dual pathing it in general, getting 2 different degrees. And so you can go on here and see what those deliverables are. What I would say is if you're advising a student, bring that program chair locally in the conversation. I'm always raise my hand. My name is at the end of the syllabus for my region. So I'm program chair, April Bledsoe, so that they know how to reach out to someone at the campus level and feel very connected and get more information if they want to continue on. So leverage your contact for your local campus to help you maybe advising a student or just to get the tools you need or the information you need.
And one other quick option here, just to put in the chat before we open it up for Q&A. My office here is at the Columbus campus, and so a new initiative with engineering. I know it's not exactly these programs, but it fits very closely with the Columbus engineering program, is called Green to Gold, which is a 2+2 agreement. That's starting off here. It's a pilot at the Columbus campus. We hope to expand it statewide to several more campuses in the next few years. But it's an agreement where students can enter one of our engineering programs here at Ivy Tech Columbus. And then if they complete this pathway, and there are different milestones and other things like that along the pathway, but if they complete the pathway, then they are guaranteed to be an admission to Purdue West Lafayette. So it's a great opportunity for some students who maybe don't have that situation available to them for whatever reason when they are graduating high school to go to West Lafayette and the Purdue Engineering School, but maybe to take a first step towards that and have a nice, 2-year pathway, the 2+2 option. So I put that in the chat. Check that out. There's contact information if you have any students that might be interested in that. So April and I have been blabbing here for over a half hour. We want to make sure we have a chance for the dialogue portion of the discipline dialogue. So welcome anyone to come off mute and ask myself or April any questions that you might have relating to your dual credit class.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Doug Hunt. I'm at Southern Wells High School, and I'm partnered with Fort Wayne Ivy Tech and doing the
Mhm.
technology pathway. Um, and there was a lot, I don't know how the other folks feel, but back in 2017, 18 kind of time frame, there was a lot of upheaval with the introduction of CTE and the impact that it had on tech ed teachers. And it's actually reassuring to see how things are kind of settling in with the design pathway because it didn't exist on the first go around. And so the technology pathway makes good sense as I see it for as somebody who was trained as a tech ed teacher now that the emphasis is on the CTE component. But as far as the question goes, I noticed it in Design 101 and 104 syllabus that come out from Ivy Tech. There are in the numbered sections on what the course needs to cover. There are some
Mhm.
small letters in square brackets, like some subscript notes or whatever, but that's not further explained or expanded on. And it
Oh, those,
feels like there's other notes.
you want me, I have, I can show you what that is. So actually that has to do with the curriculum committee was tasked to, and I will open up a 104 syllabus right now. So the curriculum committee, which this, this is the newer one, so it's not on here, but the curriculum committee, this one does not really affect you. Are you talking about the alpha characters?
You
The
had,
alpha,
even
yeah.
on the
So
101 you had pulled
the
up earlier,
curriculum
like an A
committee,
and a J and an F.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So the curriculum committee, let me go back to the share screen here. Okay, so in the if you look at the program inside right here, some program details and what the design technology program offers, course descriptions. We have a level of program outcomes that this program delivers. And we had to align, we had to go through this big audit for all of our courses, all of our core courses in the program, and look at the outcomes for each course and where they line up with program outcomes. So not every course will hit every program outcome, right? But just that from the Higher Learning Commission, this was an activity really for the Higher Learning Commission that we had to identify on our side how those align, that our courses, our course outcomes will get us to where our program outcomes should be. So that really is not anything on your part that you would have to deliver anything. It's just they ended up publishing that in the course outline. That wasn't, we didn't have any control over that. They've taken that out. And you shouldn't really see that in the future and as the syllabi are being updated. The syllabi don't change a lot. They change each year based on any college policies, or if there has been a vote to change a little bit about a curriculum outcomes, but that doesn't happen very often. So that's a really good question, actually, because I've had that a couple of times, but most people just don't pay any attention to it because they realize that it doesn't have any it doesn't allude to any other deliverable for them.
Okay.
And if it's explained really well in your onboarding each year for the syllabus. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it
Anybody
does answer
else?
the question. Yeah. No, thank you. And my only other question, you kind of addressed it, was the idea of it ultimately kind of sharing some of the assignments so we can kind of all be more on the same page so the kids are properly prepared for the next step. That's all I got.
Yeah, particularly in an area, if you feel like there's an area that you need a sample or something to hit that outcome, certainly ask for an assignment. We do that with each other too. The chairs and instructors across the state in the program we'll share back and forth really good projects or assignments that we feel hits that solidly.
Great. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, great question there. Does anyone else have any other questions for April or myself?
Yeah. I guess I was, the PD module, does everybody understand that, that Mark talked about that professional development module early on? usually within that, you'll get every year any updates for links to the latest syllabus template. One of the things I will stress that I've really tried to do in the design technology program is the K through 14 directors are awesome. They'll send out the college template for the year, but there is often a lot that you need to do to populate that. Whereas we've really tried to take it a step further and add more of the information that you will have to download in there, like the course outline, and go ahead and set that up for you. And by adding some of that, so you see that in the template examples out there in the PD module. And I've also provided that, of course, to the rest of the curriculum committee. So the PD chairs would have it, or design check chairs would have it across the state to work with you in providing the local campus information, like student resources and things like that, that students, all Ivy Tech students have access to. So I guess I'm saying too, is if you are having trouble finding your syllabus template, you can always reach out to me. I didn't put my email out there. It is also included in the PD module, right? Is it in there, Mark, as the contact for each PD module for each set of?
Yeah, we have the contact
Okay,
there for
so
both the campus and the faculty.
okay, so a couple of ways, if you really need to link to your, you need to ask me a question about it. It helps us too. It's continuous improvement. All, all of us working on the K through 14 activity and even and on the program side. So if you do have questions, clarifying questions, it does help us too.
Yeah, someone asked in the chat about adding additional Project Lead the Way courses for college credit. I think right now, because we also get this in other areas as well outside of design, there are several other Project Lead the Way pathways that one way or the other kind of touch upon some of our dual credit pathways. I would just say from a statewide perspective, I think the courses that we have right now are going to be the ones that we have at least for the foreseeable future. I don't see any additions. I don't see any subtractions. I think it's going to be a status quo for that.
And to add to that, so like IED and POE, it's under constant review because of the alignment. It's a little bit confusing sometimes for instructors like yourselves because the PLTW curriculum can diverge quite a bit off of what the course outline says and what the design technology program is about. But with intention, you can find what's required for the delivery of the course, which is the published course outline within your PLTW curriculum. And so we allow that because it is a very solid engineering curriculum for sure. Just understanding, keeping in mind always what design technology is about. And so that being said, with regards to some of these other PLTW, so we don't write our courses at all to align with PLTW. It's just that we're allowing you to use that curriculum. So regarding SIM and EDD, it would obviously be based on if the programs that are affiliated with those topics were to approve and allow, so their curriculum committee would have to review that and vote on that to allow that as for college credit. That's how that would work.
Yeah, just to kind of tie a bow on it, for Project Lead the Way or any of the other, there are a variety of other third-party curriculum providers. Just generally speaking, Ivy Tech does not build courses or programs around third-party providers. It's if the third-party provider's curriculum matches up with what our course objectives are in the COR. That's the key right there. And it still has to be reviewed by faculty and a lot of other stakeholder groups. So do we have any other questions? We got like 3 minutes left here before we jump off.
Yeah, you're right, Doug. So it's usually a lot of conversation and trying to be intentional to make sure we hit the Ivy Tech course requirements. So thank you for those comments. Well, I would say, Mark, thank you for this opportunity and everyone who called in today. If you have any questions, you think of something after we disconnect today, you have our contact information, or you need clarification. One of the things I would remind everyone, for example, for Design 113, it was made official this year in the fall that AutoCAD is the required tool for that course. And because overwhelmingly we were finding students coming out of the high schools that had never been exposed to it, and industries clamor, they just keep crying for it. They really do. And so that's just one of the tools when they come out of design technology. They're armed with many tools, right? And industry's expecting us to really load them up. So it can't just be one tool that they're coming out of the high school with, say just Inventor or just Fusion. They should have, by the time they come out of the high school CTE pathway, they should have had up to 3 different tools by the time they come out. And so, but we wanted to help you with that and maybe provide some resources for you if you need help with that. AutoCAD's required though for Design 113, it's required.
Someone asked in the chat, does Fusion 360 work as well as AutoCAD?
Not for 113, but it does work if someone wants to, because it is like the grandchild, right, of AutoCAD, and it's very sophisticated. It works really well. It actually creates tool paths and talks to CNC. So we actually do, that one's a great one to use also for Design 195 and even 220, because you get it for free in the high schools. You get the Autodesk products for free. And so that's opened up the door for more schools to actually be credentialed to teach Design 220. Because now you have that free software that you don't have to buy a license for. So that's amazing. But it does work really well for the Design 220 class if you end up being credentialed for that.
Okay, well, we have 1 minute left here. I want to thank April for being
Yes.
here today. Thank all of our instructors for joining us today. Lots of great things are happening statewide with dual credit. This year, we're on track for somewhere between 91 and 95,000 dual credit students across the entire state. The largest dual credit program in the country by about a factor of 4. And all of that is predicated upon our great dual credit instructors. We have about 3,700 of them across the state, including several great ones here on this call today. So thank you for everything that you're doing. You're making a big difference in the lives of your students and a big difference in your community, big difference in your school. And we know that all the extra stuff that you have to do with dual credit usually is done out of the goodness of your heart. And whether it's doing that stuff or jumping on this call or other things like that, it really just speaks to all the great things that you do for your students and your character as a person. So we appreciate everything. And with that, we'll end the call today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving,
yeah,
everyone.
but thanks. Have a happy Thanksgiving.